How do you sell a feature film idea to a studio or an investor? If I had an easy answer, I'd charge $1 million and make an e-course. I don't, but I do have a pitch deck that we're working on here for our current next feature film. It's called The Littlest Ghost Hunter. And I want to walk you through it, show you the pages that we made and a little bit of why we put them together the way we did, so that maybe next time you're looking to fund a project, you have some sort of a baseline of how to put together at least a passable pitch deck that gets you past those censors. Best case scenario, they like the pitch deck enough, they like the business aspect of it enough to tell their intern to read your script and tell them what they think of it. So you start out with the title page and then the logline page. The logline is just no character names, it just encapsulates your story in a sentence. So it's haunted by death, a middle schooler and his filmmaker friend chase the truth about the afterlife. But their journey into local legends unearths something far more real, more dangerous, and closer to home than they ever feared. So it's a kind of glossary explanation of kind of the feeling of the movie, some of the stakes, who's involved, the type of thing that would be next to the poster on Netflix. It would be the paragraph right next to it there. So it can't be too long, it can't be too confusing. But I kind of hate log lines. They're very, very difficult to write, and this is like version 15 of ours. Why this story? I think it's important to tell a little bit of why you should tell this story. I'm not super thrilled with this page, but it's kind of the emotional, like, why this producer and this director should tell this particular story. Why shouldn't they just say, great, we'll buy your script and hand it to somebody else? It's like the passion behind it. We jump into the synopsis page, which just has whatever can fit on the page, something that can be read in about 60 seconds, that explains the story, explains the stakes, some of the key beats. And as you can see, I've attached the screenplay here, just hoping that they like it enough to click through and at least read the first 10 pages, because we have a solid first 10 pages, and if they are interested in that, then you know, there's probably a conversation that could happen. The tone and style page I think is very important. I think the whole deck should be visually dense. That's one of the things that I agree with, some friends of mine have said. But I also think as creatives we get very caught up in the tone and style section of things, because we want the whole deck just to be a vibe and an aesthetic. And guess who doesn't care about vibes and aesthetics? Are business-minded people with tons of money. They care about money and results and scope and things like that. So tone and style, put it in there, but kind of hide it in the rest of the deck too. That's my motto. And we talk a little bit about the world building, so they can feel kind of what the situation is like before cell phones, before TikTok, but not tied to like the 1970s. And that's purely a budget thing. If we had all the budget in the world, we'd probably tie it exactly to a decade and do afros and all of that, but we didn't. And then we jump into some actually like feasible locations we have access to. This is where if I had specific agreements with these locations, I would absolutely put them in here or link them. We don't. We've just had conversations with these places, and so we know that we're not lying, and these are places we can actually film, places that fit in the script. Haunted house number 2, haunted house number 3, that type of thing. The state library. So it's just important to show, I think, with anything you're doing with a movie, to show momentum. If you can show that there's already some money in the bank account, if you can show there's already some talent attached, if you can show there's already location, so it doesn't just seem like you've been sitting on your computer dreaming all day. You want to show some footwork, which brings us to the characters, diving into our 2 leads and then our supporting characters, just to explain who they are just in a snapshot so people understand. And then showing attached talent, which is one of those momentum things. It is important not to lie, obviously, and to, you know, pretend you have access to these amazing actors, but these are great actors that we have auditioned and have read the script and are interested, dependent, contingent on funding. We'll blow past the budget section because it's very boring, and I have a full budget, like a spreadsheet for them linked here, and there's multiple ways we can do it, but I think the key here is just to show that you have a plan, that it's not just some creative pipe dream. There's a legit budget that a legit line producer has looked at, or at least somebody with good filmmaking experience has looked at. Then we talk about the shot list, the way we're going to shoot it. In our case, because it's a very small movie, we're going to shoot it at 3 crew sizes. So the first size would be the big crew for the big set pieces in the abandoned asylum and all of that, with stunts and things. But then we'd have a much more stripped back crew that we would shoot the residential scenes, the backyard scenes with, and the library scenes. And then we'll have a splinter crew that'll shoot a couple moments, like when they're hanging up flyers looking for the missing cat, or when the boys are just riding through the neighborhood on their bikes, things like that. So to show that there's at least some sort of plan about, we need this money and here's how it's going to be spent, so that there's like a legitimate trust, at least somewhat, that you know what you're talking about. And then the comparable films page, comps, industry jargon comps page, is just other movies that they have seen. You don't want to pick too niche movies. And in our case, we decided to err away from the A24 horror obvious examples because they're just too horrific compared to what we're looking for. So we decided to make that a positive, to mention other movies that were kids on bikes, but were still scary and thrilling, and to positively talk about how it's PG-13. It's not this R-rated, horrific masterclass. And then the final bit is just a little bit about who we are, the successes we've had, contact information. And then there's a little bit about the last movie we did, just showing that there was actual success that came from it, meaning that, it was picked the best indie film of the year. It was distributed. You can find it online, and hopefully that kind of seals the deal. So I think when looking at pitch decks, there's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm obviously not a professional who's done this. There are other people on this platform who are much better than I am. But the goal with this was to make it for a specific person. We're not cold calling huge companies here, huge production companies. It was to make it for a specific person and to talk through it with them so that they could get a complete picture, and it feels like we're on our way on something, and it's, do you want to come along with us on this project or not? So hopefully that's interesting. If you have notes or thoughts or questions, let me know. All right, bye.